Have you ever looked at a map of the Middle East and noticed how, over centuries of conflict, Iran's borders have stayed remarkably the same? Well, today, we're going to dig into why. And the answer isn't just about armies or politics. It's about looking at Iran as one of the world's greatest natural fortresses. So here's the puzzle we're trying to solve. For 600 years, you've had empires like the Romans, the Turks, the British, all battering against Iran's frontiers. And yet, its core territory? It's barely moved. How is that even possible? What's the secret to its incredible resilience? Well, the secret isn't some superweapon. It's the land itself. The entire country is basically a giant castle. It's got towering walls, a kind of natural moat, and an interior that is an absolute nightmare for any invading army. So let's go explore this fortress, layer by fascinating layer. Okay, every fortress needs walls, right? But Iran's weren't built with stone and mortar. We're talking about massive, imposing mountain ranges that have effectively sealed the country off for thousands of years. I mean, just look at this. To the south and west, you have the Zagros Mountains, this colossal wall of rock. Up north, the Alborz Range completely blocks access from the Caspian Sea. Then you've got this ribbon of mountains sealing the entire eastern border. And in the few places where the mountains aren't there, you get a natural moat, the huge marshes of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. It's an almost perfect perimeter. So, let's say you're an invader. You somehow manage to punch a hole through those mountain walls. You'd think the hard part's over, right? Well, you'd be wrong. You've just walked into an even deadlier trap, the vast, empty heart of the fortress. Because what's waiting for you inside are two of the most brutal deserts on Earth, the Dasht-e Kavir and the Dasht Lut. And these are not your scenic, sandy deserts. We're talking about vast, dead wastelands of salt flats and scorched rock, which makes trying to supply an army with food, water, and fuel a logistical nightmare. And on top of that, you have to deal with the sheer size of the place. We're talking about 1.6 million square kilometers. I mean, that is bigger than France, Germany, and Spain combined. This immense size isn't just a geographic fact, it's a weapon. And this brings us to this key military idea called strategic depth. The concept is actually pretty simple. The deeper an enemy army pushes into Iran, the longer and more fragile their supply lines get. For things like fuel, ammo, food. The land itself starts to wear them down, turning what should be a quick invasion into a slow, exhausting, and often failed mission. But here's the thing. This fortress isn't just about playing defense. Iran's geography also gives it an incredibly powerful offensive card to play, a tiny choke point that can quite literally hold the entire global economy hostage. So what do you think is Iran's most powerful weapon? You're probably thinking of its missile program, or maybe its drones, but its single greatest strategic asset is much, much older and way more powerful. It's this, a 50-kilometer-wide strip of water called the Strait of Hormuz. The key is Iran's V-shaped coastline, which gives it this dominant position overlooking the entire strait. It's the perfect geographical setup for controlling one of the most important waterways on the planet. And the stakes here are, well, they're massive. About 20% of the entire world's oil supply sails through this tiny gap. For a country like Qatar, that's 90% of its natural gas exports. All in all, something like 5% of the entire global economy depends on this strait staying open. That gives Iran an insane amount of leverage. But of course, a fortress, no matter how strong, is nothing without the people defending it. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most complex layer of Iran's defense. Its people. And this is where things get really interesting, because it's a total paradox. Internally, Iran is incredibly diverse. You have huge populations of Persians, Azeris, Kurds, Arabs, and more. And yes, that can lead to tension. But when an outside force threatens the country, that diverse, complex society tends to transform into a unified, powerful shield. You don't have to look far for a perfect example. Back in the 1980s, when Saddam Hussein invaded Iran, he made a huge bet. He thought Iran's ethnic minorities would rise up and join him, that the country would just crumble from the inside. He could not have been more wrong. His invasion did the exact opposite of what he expected. Instead of fracturing, these diverse groups rallied together with a powerful sense of national identity. The result? 8 brutal years and 1 million casualties later, Iraq was forced to retreat without gaining a single inch of Iranian land. The fortress held. So let's just quickly put it all together. You've got four incredible layers of defense. First, the imposing mountain walls. Second, the deadly deserts that provide strategic depth. Third, the Hormuz choke point, which gives Iran massive global leverage. And finally, you have a complex population that comes together to defend the fortress. Any one of these layers would make a country tough to conquer. But all four together, they've created a defensive system that has shaped centuries of history. And understanding this fortress is absolutely key to understanding Iran's power and its role in the world, not just in the past, but right now, today.